Hey team, and welcome to series 3 of Jeans and a Nice Top podcast. I am so grateful to be here. I can't explain how much I have missed doing this and talking to incredible people and sharing it with you all. It's been a crazy time, lots of fun stuff happening, but it's so good to be back. I genuinely adore this little passion project of mine, and having all of you guys listen in to my stories, my babbles, and the incredible interviews that I'm blessed to be given. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient with my season 3. I know I did a bit of a teaser and then I left you hanging, so well done for staying on. And first episode is, I'm kicking it off with a bang with the one and only Joanna Kenny. As always, don't forget to rate, review and subscribe at Smile to Health or at Chelsea is a Little if you want more of my personal life and just indulgent selfies, let's be honest. Obviously, check out my book on Amazon, Cursed to Feel. Enjoy the vibe. Ciao! And welcome to season 3 of Jeans and a Nice Top podcast. And this week we are blessed with the one, the only, Joanna Kenny. She is the big sister we all wanted growing up. She is a skincare professional with 14 years experience in the beauty industry, the creator of #PoresNotFlaws on Instagram, which if you do not follow, get on the hype. It will make you feel a million times better, and this kind of relatable content is what she's renowned for on Instagram, but also in her new podcast, Normalize This, where she extends her work to debunk unrealistic beauty standards and make us all feel a little less alone. But for those who don't know you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, Chelsea, wow. Thank you so much. I'm not sure I can describe myself better than you just did, but I am I'm an esthetician, yeah, like you mentioned, and I started the Pores Not Flaws campaign to remind people everywhere that filtered skin is not a skin type. And that was because I had so many people come to me asking me for skincare advice, showing me a picture of how they want their skin to look, and asking me which products they can use to achieve that result. And of course, the picture that they showed me had a filter on it, so it had a lot of airbrushing, and it just wasn't real skin. So kind of found my purpose in life. I had acne for a really long time. For the whole time that I was actually working in the beauty industry, I struggled with that skin condition, and it really affected me emotionally and mentally.
Yeah.
Affected my physical progress for a really long time. So I decided to start an account on Instagram. I started it, I was called Beautiful by Breakfast in the beginning, and documented my journey, trying to clear my skin, but in a more positive way rather than the years previously, which had just been fueled out of hate for my skin. I actually turned things around. I was like, hang on a minute, why don't I try doing it from a different perspective, out of actually just start loving who I am and accepting the fact that I have acne, and see what happens from there, and start treating myself a bit kinder.
Which is so much harder than it sounds. You make it seem very, I know, I'm sure it's not easy, and it's definitely a journey, not a like start to finish destination. I always say this, I think with anything like self-care, self-love, all of that, it's never you start here, you end here. I find once you unturn one stone, you're starting to turn a million of them, and then you're like, starts off with your skin, and then it's your body, and then it's your relationships, and then it's your relationship to everything.
Absolutely, and you'll see that just looking at my grid, because it like started off, it's always about skin and acne, and then all of a sudden like I start talking about other things, because I realized that if I could accept my skin, which was just such a huge insecurity for me and something that I never thought possible, that I could go out in public and let people see my visible acne, I thought, well, if I can overcome that challenge and that insecurity, I can challenge other things that I also feel extremely anxious about, like having I've always had quite a big belly, I have a lot of cellulite on my legs, all of these different things that I've always covered up in shame and embarrassment and fear of judgment. And then I'm just like, okay, if I've done it with my skin, I can definitely challenge myself and actually appreciate who I am as a whole. So yeah, like you say, it was not a case of just flicking a switch and being confident, or flicking a switch and
No.
being, in that state of acceptance, because I think that's the really hard thing to hear when people keep saying, oh, you just need to love yourself or do some self-love. And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, what does that look like? Because
Yeah, because it's so different for everyone. It's not like a magic button that you just press and you're like, woohoo, I now like love every single thing about myself, because everything can change. It can change throughout a day. Like, I can wake up feeling, okay, I'm all right today. I can accept who I am. And then somebody could say something that could trigger something, or like something bad happens, or someone shouts at you, or there's like an idiot on the tube, and then the next thing you know, you're all of a sudden picking apart your body in the mirror because that's your default mechanism, or you suddenly decide that you hate your hair, or you hate how tall you are, or XYZ. And it's
what you're exposed to throughout the day definitely has like an impact on like how you see yourself. And yeah, I have to work on it every single day, because that mentality shifts constantly. So it's definitely not a case like once you reach that point of acceptance, you stay there and you never question yourself ever again. Like you actually,
Yeah, I wish.
I think you're just better equipped to check yourself and challenge those things as they come along. So if you've spent a day where you've been extremely exposed to certain things like airbrushing, or I don't know, things like maybe negative people who bring you down, then obviously you're going to have to work a lot harder, but you'll recognize those things as things that really make you feel less than. So it's that knowledge that really gives you the power.
Did you find it was really... So obviously you've got a lot of experience like in the beauty industry. I mean, you're very talented with makeup. You know so much about the skin and your face. Did you find that you had to do a lot of unlearning in order to become skin positive, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of unlearning in recent months. I don't know if it's necessarily to do with skin, because I've always had a pretty good, being in the industry, you know what people coming through the door, what their issues are, and you see real skin. And of course you get some people that do have flawless skin, but they're very far and few between, and not like the volume that you think exists when you look at social media. So yeah, no, I don't think I've had to unlearn anything from the beauty industry, because it is quite good. I think it's not necessarily the industry that's the problem, it's more like the marketing that goes with it that I have an issue with.
I was going to say that I can imagine actually, and it's quite refreshing to know that, I think, that the actual industry itself is very well educated, very thorough, and has an understanding of everybody, shape, size, skin type, anything, but actually it's the way it's then portrayed to us that is the problem. Because I'm quite lucky in the sense that I don't have extremely problematic skin. I still have breakouts, and you can see my pores, and I sweat quite a lot and things like that. But in the grand scheme of skin types, I can put concealer over it and I'm fine. I'm more socially accepted, in inverted commas. But actually, when I went through a phase where I did have like quite problematic skin, I actually found the people within the beauty industry were the most supportive.
Yeah, because they've seen it all, and they really do see such diversity that I think they also have probably, I mean, obviously I can't speak for everybody, but in general, I would say their bedside manner is very good. And they are very good at like making you feel at ease, and that's part of the treatment, is to make you feel better about yourself on a whole, rather than just, you know, trying to make you look physically different. But then, saying that, I've been a customer as well, like I am, strictly speaking, beautician or whatever, but then I also go for treatments myself, and I haven't always had this same kind of service that I would give to others, and that has been more of a problem when I had very severe acne and I wasn't treated in a sensitive way. So they would say very abrasive things that instantly would make me feel quite upset, because they perhaps hadn't had personal experience of it, so didn't really know the emotional and psychological side of it, which meant that you couldn't... I think the trouble is with acne specifically is because it is so visible to everybody, we get a lot of unsolicited advice, and kind of a lot of shaming with you're not clearly not doing this properly, or you're not washing your face, or you're not removing your makeup, or you need to stop doing this. So there's a lot of like orders, and
Yeah.
we often feel like we have a bit of a target on our back as well in terms of selling product. And part of the gig when you're a beauty therapist is that you do need to sell skincare after doing a facial, but there are ways to do it where you can do it in a less salesy approach, which was always kind of my way of doing it. And it was like, here's this is what we sell. But then also, this is something that I've had really good success with, and I don't sell it here, but you can find it over there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'd recommend something that I really genuinely believed in. I think that was always like something I made sure when I chose somewhere where I wanted to work, it had to be with a skincare company that I enjoyed using. I would really struggle doing my job as like the hours that I used to do if I didn't actually enjoy what I was putting onto people's face.
Of course, because then it doesn't feel truthful.
No, and the industry can be viewed as quite fake. So for me, authenticity has always been like quite important. And like you said earlier about in terms of how we know what real is, what normal is, the marketing side really lets it down. And I also think it just in general, a lot of stereotyping in general with the industry. Like I know that when I first, such a fantastic industry, and when I first went into beauty therapy, well, I left school at 15.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm just a young girl. I'm just a young girl. I was born in
doing her own thing.
I was born in June, so I finished all my GCSEs at the time I was 15. I think that's true for other people as well. So when I was probably 14, I was asked to choose what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Which is just madness, isn't it? Because I feel like you're very lucky if you do know what you want to do.
Luckily I did, and I probably was one of very few in my school year that actually knew what I wanted to do. So I had no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a beauty therapist, because I really wanted to travel with doing it, and I heard that you could do that with that job. And it was just something that had always been, I just didn't have a second choice. That was all I wanted to do. It was that kind of feeling. And so many of my teachers really tried to talk me out of doing it, because I got grades that were, better. I say better in terms of the past, sorry, not really articulating myself very well.
No, I totally know what you mean, in the sense that I was exactly the same, in that I think if you're above a certain level and you're in those certain sets that tend to get pushed more, the higher sets basically, it makes the school look better if they can then pass you on to certain types of academia, certain pathways in life. I discussed it in one of the other podcast episodes when I had a discussion with the careers counsellor. I don't know if you ever had one of those.
Yeah, that's the same, yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and he was like a middle-aged man that had never left Stourbridge, which is where I'm from, which is a tiny little town.
Really miserable.
But hated his life. And it was telling me that I was wrong because I wanted to sing and dance for a living, and I got good grades, which meant that I wasn't allowed to do that. And it's just so ridiculous, because it's like, well, surely you should just be happy I know what I want to do. It makes your life easier. Just leave me alone and go and help the people that actually need it.
So quite similarly, because it's quite creative jobs, or like more hands-on jobs, if you like.
Yeah.
It's not, neither of our jobs are particularly academic, which is what I think is their like issue. And there's a massive stereotype, which I'm sure you have faced your own stereotypes in your industry, but we face that, you have to be stupid to be a beauty therapist, or you have to be, so you have to be that. And the actually the theoretical side of the industry, I mean, of course people are massively helped to get through, the ones that do really struggle with it, but you have to learn every single relevant muscle in the body. You have to learn every bone in the body. You have to understand the olfactory system, the immune system. Like, there's so much to it that people
There's a lot of science behind it as well, because it's especially around the skin, because it's the largest organ in the body. Like, it's so much more technical than I think people appreciate.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, and I just feel like it's just so poorly represented, and so that's something that maybe in the future I'd like to have a dabble at trying to change, but I've kind of got my hands full with the whole issue with, you know, skin being so badly misrepresented at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because these are one of these situations where I'm actually really grateful for places like Instagram. I think you can really make social media a positive space if you fall into the right kind of rabbit holes of places. And skin positivity is something I'd never really even been exposed to. I was very much in the body positive space because that was where my issues lay. And then actually I realised that it's also interconnected, like you said. And then I fell into this skin positive place, and I was like, people are airbrushed. I was like, what? I was like, I knew they airbrushed cellulite and stuff. Pores? Like, we all have pores. We need them to breathe, for our skin to breathe. I was like, why are they airbrushing that? Why? And then I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And then you noticed it. I was like, no models have hair on their arms. Like, no models have this. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, if you actually think about what you're absorbing through images on the daily, you're like, why don't they have any pores? Where are their freckles? And I mean actual freckles, not ones that are dotted on with paint.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they do, you know, more professional, you know, what we can do on our phone is a little bit different to what professionals can do, but they actually put a layer of skin texture over the top of the airbrushing so that it doesn't look too unlike skin.
What?
So if you look at a picture and you're like, I don't think that has been airbrushed because I can see, you know, some sort of pore or something there. That's also been put there. So it's crazy what they can do. And, you know, the trouble that we're in at the moment is that before, you know, because people will always say, oh, but that's always been the case. You know, when I was growing up, it was magazines, or, you know, me comparing myself to models in a window or Hollywood films or whatever, because it's true, like they've had this you know, capacity to change things for a very long time, but we can all do it at the touch of a button on our phones, and we're not touching up sorry can't say that. We're not
you can say it, we're all girls here.
No, but
some of us probably haven't been touched up in a while either.
I said that the wrong way. So we're not retouching other people, we are editing ourselves, which no one has been able to do before. So we're not yet aware of the psychological impact that, you know, it's not been around long enough for studies to have been done to know what that does to people, because you can look in the mirror and then you can look at a picture of yourself that you've just enhanced on your phone. What does that do to your brain? It's seeing two different versions of you. Like, we just have no idea of, you know, there's that saying, seeing is believing. So your brain does believe and trust the images that are put in front of it.
And it's scary as well, because I feel like it creates a lot of disassociation, because if you're never seeing I talk about this a lot in the body positive movement, in the sense that I used to hide my body for years because I was ashamed of the weight I'd gained and how it had changed, and actually I couldn't heal the relationship with my body until I physically looked at it, touched my body, held my belly, gave myself a hug, like could see myself in the mirror, what I actually look like with underwear, rather than just always in baggy clothes. And I think your skin's the same. Like, people need to see their face without makeup, without filters, without teeth whiteners and all of these crazy things. I mean, you can literally change, like you said, change the shape of your eyes, you can add cheekbones, fillers, like you said, with the touch of a button. And I think you become so disassociated with how you actually look. You can never build a relationship because you don't know what you're having a relationship with, if that makes sense.
No, and then there's this true
adamancy that I've seen myself look that way. So now that's where we're having a height in cosmetic surgery, because people are like, well, I already know what I look like with bigger lips, and I already know what I look like with this, if this was a bit different. But the way something is tweaked on your phone is very different to the end result of having surgery. Like, it's not equal to one another. So it's like even as simple as changing the color of your hair on your phone using an app or a filter, and then going to the hairdressers and saying, I know that this hair color looks really good on me because I've seen it on my phone, can you do this? And then they're like, well, no, because actually it won't take like that to your your color, it won't mix like that. And so people just get very disappointed and the expectations are never met. And when that happens, you just get to this point of feeling really demotivated, especially in skincare, because you're striving towards an unobtainable goal, and so you always feel like your skincare is failing you, or that you are failing. And that's like the world that you're living in constantly, of failure. Either the things that you're buying, you just kind of mark them as condemning your skincare to fail before really giving it a chance. And I know that was me, especially true for me, or anyone that has got a skin condition where they've really got high hopes for a new product that they're using. And you do need to wait about, for most skincare, you need to wait about a month to really see whether it's made a difference. But even then, you're not going to be 100% sure if it's that product, if you've started using other things simultaneously, or if the climate has changed during that time, or if you've been eating differently or exercising differently. There's so many factors that affect the skin, unlike any other kind of part of your body that you're trying to change. So it's a real struggle to actually identify when something works. And of course, then you've got some products that are very more superficial, so they'll like have ingredients in them that will work on the very, very, very surface skin cells, so the ones that are already dead, basically. And they'll give you like very instant brightening, plumping appearance, which will last for about 2 days until that skin cell sheds off. So it's a bit of one of those, really. You've got a culture now where we as consumers demand so much from skincare,
and we're not patient either. I'm the worst for it. Like, as soon as my skin goes in a bad way, and mine's definitely linked to stress. If I'm not sleeping well and I'm really stressed, my skin is the first thing to go every time. I'm quite lucky in a sense that I can eat quite a lot of sugar and it doesn't affect, even alcohol and stuff doesn't really affect my skin. It's always sleep and stress. And straight away why isn't niacinamide fixing my whole face? I've moisturised today, why am I not dewy? And it's like, no, like, be patient. And I'm the worst for it, because I'm like, well, this didn't work, and then I'll go and spend another X amount of pounds on something else because I was too impatient to wait for the first thing to...
A lot of the time, unfortunately, it's user error, and it's also like the wrong expectations being sold alongside a product, and those usually happen by the person that's selling you it, if they've not been completely transparent, or if you've not bought it from a person and you've bought it online and you're just reading sometimes some quite misleading claims, or you're looking at the picture that's sold alongside the image, the product, and then you've kind of developed this kind of idea of what your skin might look like at the end. It's definitely not the consumer's fault, because
it's what we're sold.
It's a bit subliminal in that sense, and we're not always in control of that, because obviously their marketers are just so incredibly talented at their job. But it does mean that all the time consumers are looking for this quick fix or instant results. It means that skincare will continue to be marketed for that result. So you'll keep seeing words like flawless, poreless, instant, and we'll all keep buying those products, and we'll keep being disappointed by them. Or we can, as the consumers who actually hold the power, we tell the people what we want, and that is long-lasting results that does this in a reasonable amount of time. And then actual scientists, they will be able to dedicate time to develop and move the industry on, but all the while the demand is there for quick fixes and these social media filter type appearances. We're not really going to get as much out of our skincare as I think we could.
100%.
I'd love to know a bit more about the specifics of your personal skincare journey and how that kind of led to the amazing movement that you've created, which is Pores Not Flaws.
Well, I changed my skincare quite dramatically about 3 years ago, because I've always worked in the spa side of the beauty industry, so all aromatherapy oils, essential oils, and it made me quite scared of anything that was, and also my skin condition made me quite scared of trying different things, and also anything that said acid on, or it's very alien to me, actually. So although I I did facials and massage for people, and that was my speciality. In terms of aesthetics and stuff like that, that is definitely not in my comfort zone at all. And so I had like a bit of a re-education there about 3 years ago, where I actually sought help. I was like, this is it's got to the point now where I can't help myself because I'm too like consumed by this. So I actually need intervention. So I went to see somebody and was introduced to this new brand that I'd never heard of before, and it had lovely things like salicylic acid in, which I'd never used. And my skin was different the next day because that ingredient just responded so well to my skin. And it was, I think, a lot of it down to fear. Through having something like acne for so long, and you're just so worried that the next thing you put on your skin is going to make it worse. So it was definitely an element of stepping out my comfort zone for the better. And I think the trouble is with a skin condition like acne as well, you believe you've tried everything.
I've had a couple of friends like throughout my life who have really struggled, and they were like, it's almost become the same as, say, if you've got like a mental health condition, or you've got a birthmark, or anything that is visible to see or very noticeable. Like, I know, for example, I felt like I would always be known as the girl that had the eating disorder, and it almost felt like a branding. And I know that skincare can definitely feel like, skin conditions can definitely feel like that, especially when, like you said, they're so visible, and it almost becomes part of your identity. And then however you're afraid to try something because you don't want to, well, like you said, make it worse, but then also you don't want to lose that part of yourself that you just know as you.
Yeah, you just end up feeling so deflated and defeated by the skin condition, really. And you start being defined by it. So you start every single decision you make, which I'm sure you experienced as well, with your eating disorder. Because in terms of like something that is all consuming like that, it really, every single decision you make is, how is that going to affect my skin? How's that going to, what will happen if I do that? And I'm surprised that not more people with acne don't develop an eating disorder, because every time I ate, I was like, oh, is this going to give me a flare up?
That was going to be one of my questions. I was like, I can imagine that actually your relationship with your skin would affect quite powerfully your relationship with your body. Like you said, either whether it be food choices like self-sabotaging or restricting, or
it really was like the trouble is with food is because I love it so much, it was the
Me
one
too.
it was the one thing that I would not listen to any advice over. So the doctors that I went to see countless times, they were like, oh, have you thought about doing a food diary? I was like, how dare you bring up a food diary? You know how many times? Is this the kind of appointment we're gonna have? Is it that you're going to talk about food diary? I just felt so like it's got to that point where I'm so hopeless. The only suggestion they've got for me is a food diary, and I just always felt like they were palming that off onto me as, we don't know what the hell's wrong with you, so here you go and do this. And it took a really long time, and I'm talking over 10 years, for me to realise that they weren't palming it off onto me. I actually needed to take control of the situation. And it wasn't until I took that ownership of my acne, rather than being like, can you help me? What you did last time or what you gave me last time didn't work. Like, it was because I already had like this attitude of next, I want the next thing, or I've heard about this medication, so I want that medication. And I never really believed anything was going to work. So it wasn't until I took control and thought, okay, so why am I breaking out? What is causing these breakouts? And my acne evolved, and I'm sure anyone listening who's had acne as well will have been on such a journey with their skin that it's, mine started off as adolescent, and it was teenage breakouts, so very much pimples, predominantly on my forehead. And I really do believe that would have run its course had I just used topical things on my skin. But because I went down the road of having oral antibiotics and oral contraceptive pills, and then much later I had isotretinoin. I did so much stuff internally to my body. My acne changed. It went from being, like I say, to do with just that hormonal imbalance as a teenager, to then being very cystic, very painful, like just huge. They were like boils on my face, on my back.
Bless you, that had been so painful as well.
So painful, and they're the ones that have scarred all of my jaw and all around here. And the type of liquid that would ooze out of them would be like fluorescent green. Like, it was really awful stuff. And that's when I realized that this wasn't just gonna go away. This is something, my body is trying to tell me something here. And I think I've gone way past, like, people kept saying to me, you're going to grow out of it, don't worry, by the time you're 20 you'll grow out of it, okay, by the time you're 21 you'll grow out of it. And I just heard that every single year. So then I got to 28, I'd got engaged, like my husband now, he proposed, and I just thought, do you know what, I really don't want to turn 30. I don't want to enter into another decade with acne. So before he proposed, I decided that before I turned 30, I would look at trying to see where it all came from. And then of course he proposed, and it was like, okay, now I want to get clear skin before I get married. And then I was
going to say, I bet that was the motivator. It totally would be for me, and I'm not even sorry about it.
I know. So then we had like a really short engagement. We got engaged in the March, and we were getting married in the August. And of course, having that pressure made it actually worse for me, because I had given myself 2 years, and already I'd reduced my time frame to 6 months. So I had this huge amount of pressure that caused a lot of stress. So I think without that, I probably could have got a lot further along in my journey than I did. But saying that, in that time, with his support, that's when I really started looking at the self-love side of things. So simultaneously trying to figure out where my breakouts were coming from. And because of different medication that I'd been on, I had developed irritable bowel syndrome, which I'd also had for about 10 years by this point. So, which was much worse in the beginning, but as I got a lot older, it kind of was just something that bothered me every now and then. And so I thought, okay, so I'm pretty sure then that my acne that I have now is, like I say, different from before. Maybe once it was hormonal, but right now I think it's actually to do with food intolerances.
And your whole digestive and gut health.
Exactly.
Which I think we're now fortunate that we're starting to get more information and be more educated.
Which wasn't the case when I first started breaking out, unfortunately, because gut health for me was a complete game changer when I started reading about that. And I thought, great, so I think I've nailed it. And then from there I had like a food allergy test, and then had like a million different food allergies. I was like, no.
They're just taking all your blood for everything.
I'm not cutting all that stuff out, no way. So I did, but I did it for 3 months, and I gradually brought things back in, because the naturopathic doctor that was helping me with this, she said, right, Joanna, you've just got to cut it all out. I was like, excuse me? Yeah, you've got all those things that you're allergic to, you need to cut them all out. I was like, but that's not sustainable, because that was
or enjoyable either.
Well, no, because it was like a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables. It was like some herbs and spices. It was dairy. It was just such a variety of things that you would never expect. Like lettuce.
Wow.
And kale.
A good excuse not to have a salad.
But I actually enjoy those things, so I was like, no, come on. So anyway, at that point I actually terminated our relationship as client and patient, because what she was asking me to do, I knew wasn't something that I was going to be able to sustain. So I went it alone, and I did what she suggested. I got rid of everything out of my diet temporarily. And then that's when I started journaling and did a food journal.
Yay! We love to journal.
Yes, I was like, okay, so the doctors have been telling me to do this for like 10 years, and here I go.
Finally, I'm not being stubborn and I'll listen.
Yeah, it took 10 years. That's literally how stubborn I am. So
me too, don't worry.
So then, like, the first 2 days, I was like, oh God. And I saw like a repetition already, like within week 1. And I was just like, okay, I think I eat a lot more dairy than I realized. It's in every single meal that I'm eating, and it's one of my triggers, like the things that I'm allergic to on this test.
Yeah.
So I started doing more investigating. This was over the course of months, by the way. So it really is like a
slow process of like chipping away.
Yeah, but then people kind of think, I just want medication because it's so much easier. But medication isn't an easy route either. Like the side effects that I've had off the back of them, or like even when I got like the antibiotics that I was on them for a year before the doctor said, okay, these clearly aren't working for you. Like, how come I was a teenager on antibiotics for a year is madness.
That's insane.
So then when I was on Roaccutane, I had to jump through so many hoops. One, just to get the initial consultation, had to like wait for 6 months for an appointment. But then also in terms of like, I had high cholesterol, which I didn't know, and that's like a big no if you want to take this drug. So I had to go like for a few months of lowering that before I could start the medication. And because I'd been flagged early on, that meant that I had to have more regular blood tests than normal when you're on the drug. So nothing is easy. So I think a lot of the time when you have spots especially, you're just looking for that quick solution. And
you're already drained because you're bullying yourself day in, day out every time you wake up. And then you're having to go through this whole process just because you want help and it feels like there's none there.
Exactly. So you end up doing quite drastic things. So the act of me actually journaling and figuring this stuff out for myself was, like I say, me being in control for the first time ever, having breakouts
and like reclaiming your relationship with yourself and your face, being like, okay, this is me, I want to help me.
And then I got to that amazing place where I'd figured it out once and for all. It was eggs that were really setting off my IBS, so I stopped having them. I ate lots of guts, healthy, happy things to really help with growing and feeding my good bacteria. And then dairy was the actual thing that caused spots. So eggs didn't do that, but it did upset my gut, which would in turn probably make my skin worse. But it was actually eating dairy that caused me spots. And I know there is a lot of like, does it, doesn't it, on the whole for everybody, but I think it is definitely a very personal thing. But I had it kind of proved for myself personally through research and whatever else, process of elimination, which other people could do too. And from doing that, I felt so liberated. I got to this point where I made the choice to eat dairy, knowing that it would give me a breakout. And I never thought I would get to a point where I chose to have acne. And
I was going to say, that must have been so... I know it sounds weird to say, but so empowering.
Yeah,
because I feel the same way. I always compare it back to things that other people might be able to relate with too, and especially like with the body positive sense. Nowadays, I'm not hungry. I haven't necessarily eaten healthy today. I'm not going to work out today, but I just really want a cake. So I'm gonna have one, and I don't care if I gain a pound or two because I've had said cake. I mean, that's not the case, but do you know what I mean? And it is that, like you said, it's that empowering thing of being like, I'm choosing to not give a toss whether or not X happens. And I think that when you get to that point, it's like you just want to scream and shout with, like, your arms in the air.
So that's how your question was, how did I start the movement? And that's how I started Pores Not Flaws, from an esthetician's perspective, but also from this idea of like, take back your power, because acne and other insecurities, they hold so much power over you. And that was so liberating. And on the food front, I actually have a saying that I do on my Instagram quite a lot, because I do enjoy eating things that other people might consider naughty. And I say treat, not cheat, because I think the language...
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because I think the language that we use around having something like a cake or chocolate or whatever it might be, you hear people say, I'm having a cheat day. And that makes you think, okay, well, you're not bad. You're not a bad person for doing this. And, you know, what are you cheating from?
And also, like, that poor piece of cake, what's it done to you? Like, why does that have to be the bad guy? It's just there all fluffy with icing on, doing no harm, and we're making it the demon of this narrative. Like, the poor thing.
No. So I just feel like a treat also highlights that you actually deserve it. You're deserving of this. Whereas a cheat only makes you feel more negatively about yourself. And also, like, while you eat it, you think you're bad, which is like, surely isn't good for your digestion.
No, I think like the psychology behind everything is so important, because I think if you look at how, like, when people go on holiday, they tend to just not care, right? And they'll just enjoy it. And they probably are the most intuitive because they don't care. And then they come back and they're like, oh, I need to undo. And it's like, why do you need to undo that like week or two of bliss and pure, like, actually being connected to yourself and not giving a toss about all these rules you've created?
Yeah.
Why do you want to undo that? That's the good stuff.
That's the whole purpose of going on holiday, is to like unwind. And like with we were saying about how food affects breakouts or other aspects of your skin, and then also like you said, stress. So if you're stressing over the food that you're eating, like, I don't think dairy breaks me out in the same way that it used to anymore. Like, since I've stopped stressing about breaking out because of food, I don't think it's really a factor for me. And because I worked on my gut health as well, I don't think that I have the same amount of food allergies as I once did. But because when I had that test done, my gut was in such a sorry state, I think that's why it was so sensitive. But I've probably done a lot of work since then, because I actually had no lactobacillus present in my gut when they did the test. So a whole strain of bacteria that just did not exist in me. It's that year of antibiotics.
It just destroyed everything.
Just wiped everything out. So yeah, I'm in a completely different place now. And I think that's the main reason for talking so often about acne as I do, is because I just want other people to go on that journey of self-discovery and realize that they actually have a lot more power than they realize. Because you do feel like you're just so in the hands of professionals all the time, and it's only them that can help you. And actually there's more that you can do for yourself than you realise.
I think that's such a powerful bit of information, because I find like whenever I get people a lot be like, oh, can you have someone talk about skincare? Can you have someone talk about this? And I think actually there isn't an ideal piece of advice. It is, like you said, just taking control yourself and paying attention and looking inwards and saying, okay, what actually affects me as an individual? What works, what doesn't?
I really struggle with just giving generic skincare advice, because everyone is so different. So what I say now, my best skincare advice is to seek mental health support.
That's genius though. It's so true.
Everyone can benefit from that.
I agree, because I think as soon as you change how you perceive yourself, irregardless of the things that you want to change, then you can actually work on making the changes and making them last.
If you've got a poor mental health and you're not happy with yourself looking in the mirror, you will never see physical progress, even if it's there. So it's all about changing the way you see yourself before you try and spend loads of money on various different things, because those things could have all worked and you wouldn't see it, because you're just in a state of self-hate all the time. You just cannot see how amazing you are.
It's so sad, isn't it? Like when you say it out loud, it's like, gosh, my heart breaks for everyone, including like myself, because I know that I do it.
Exactly.
And, like, gosh, we're really horrible to ourselves.
We
are.
Like,
so unfair.
You would never speak the way you do to yourself to a friend. And the thing that I always try to remind people is that there are people looking at you jealous of you, and you're jealous of someone else, but there are people that look at you and they are jealous of you. So I know it shouldn't be about jealousy, and it's not an emotion I really like to
it's not that you want people to be jealous of you, but it's just nice to know that somebody looks at you and goes wow, or thinks that you're special, because I think we all want to feel special, right? We want to feel like we're valid and important.
I think it's human nature to want to feel pretty. I think that is also, you know, this word pretty is something that we grow up wanting to feel. I think pretty is almost like an emotion as well as like something
it's not just a descriptor anymore, is it?
No.
Feeling pretty, it is, like you said, it's a way of being. It's almost confidence.
Yeah, exactly. I would say it's probably just basically another word for confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, which is madness. Love to talk more about how you delved into the, I don't want to say the hair community, but like I don't know what the specific word is for it, but I found this so interesting. So we talked about it a bit before officially started, about basically female body hair for all our listeners. And it's so interesting because I feel like as women, particularly, to any of my male listeners, there are so many things we are told to feel insecure about. You almost forget how long the list is because it's just automatic things that you do. And then I saw your post with the mascara on the upper lip, which if you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure you will. It's definitely viral and has such a powerful, important message. But it's even silly things like about shaving and removing body hair. It's something I internalized literally from the age of like 8 or 9 years old. Like I remember being at primary school. So I'd not even hit secondary school. I'd not even hit puberty. Obviously, I've got hairs on my legs because a 9-10-year-old shouldn't shave. You shouldn't even own one. And I remember going home and sobbing to my mom because I'd been bullied for having hairy legs. And this boy had called me like a bee.
I was
he just basically just kept using words like animal words. And then I remember asking my mum to get me this epilator, and they are so painful. And I remember sitting there being like, I need to remove this hair because I don't want to be called a beast anymore. And I've got take that, let it shine. I'm trying to sing, let it shine.
Just
whilst
booing.
trying to epilate my hair. When I look back, oh my God, that's hilarious, but also awful. But it's like how awful that I was 9 years old and I can't remember a time I haven't shaved my armpits, haven't shaved my legs, haven't been conscious of body hair on I almost shaved my entire arm at one point, and I'm blonde. My hairs aren't even dark. I'm very privileged in that sense.
Yeah. When I got engaged, I actually shaved my fingers because I knew people would ask to see my ring. So I shaved all my fingers so that when they looked at my hand, it wasn't hairy. And that was when I was 28. So, you know, I've been self-conscious of that for a really long time. And at school, like you, I was called a gorilla. And it wasn't until other people spoke about my hair, about my body, that I actually paid any attention to it. I didn't know I was more hairy than other people. I didn't look at my arm and look at other people's arm and think, oh, my arm's hairier than theirs. It was always someone else bringing it to my attention. And it was the same throughout my life. It's always been people making comments on my body. So that's the purpose of those posts. And like you said, you're fair-haired, I'm fair-haired, although I have a lot of hair, it is fair. So I do really empathize with people that do have dark hair because it is that much more visible. And in terms of facial hair especially, again, mine is very blonde and fluffy. I do have more dark hairs around my moustache because it's stronger hair, and the same with the hairs on my chin are like pubic hairs. They're definitely like terminal hairs, which is the type of particular hair it is, whereas the fluff that you get on your face is vellus hair. So that's something that covers your whole body. Everyone has it, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, but I know people shave it off. And it's the same with the dermaplaning. Like a lot of people do that now to make their skincare look even more amazing and like their makeup
I've
look
seen
better.
that recently, and it was something I'd never been aware of. I was like, am I meant to be self-conscious about this? I don't mind the little baby hairs that are on my face. I think they're quite cute. Like they make me a bit cuddly.
I mean, the whole point is that, you know, this isn't to shame people for removing their hair. It's just to say it would be really lovely if people could just show up how they want to without fear of judgment. And like I said, there's people that do have darker, more visible hair. There's also people with medical conditions that means that they have more visible hair. And it is absolutely exhausting trying to conform to the current societal beauty standards of you know, removing every single hair from your body. Like it's just, I found the extent that I remove my hair as exhausting. So I can't even imagine how it is for other people. And of
Yeah,
course,
absolutely.
putting my mascara on my lip was obviously not a beauty trend or something that I wanted to say, hey, let's all do this now.
Yeah, no, it's a political stand.
It was, and it was definitely like wanting to stand in solidarity with people that have visible facial hair and let people know that it exists, really, and that hair removal is very much a privilege, because when I had acne, I couldn't remove my facial hair because it was so cystic. I would have cut myself through cutting a spot or something like that. There's some people that can't afford professional treatment either, like professional hair removal.
Yeah.
So it's an expensive business, and it's just not something that's sustainable for a lot of people. Some people's skin is too sensitive for waxing. Mine is, for example. I break out more when I wax.
Yeah.
It's just not for everybody. So it would just be really nice for people just not to have to justify why they're choosing not to remove their facial hair or any hair on their body, really. And so we could talk about body hair at length, because we've all been probably shaving and, you know, doing our legs and our pubic areas since
the beginning of being a female. I think it's madness as well, because I think it was something that you shared about the fact that it actually didn't come into existence until the 1950s. Like razors were only ever targeted for men, and then they were like, oh, we're missing an entire market, let's create this insecurity for women so that we can market it to them. Like, what? Women are so powerful, and we're allowing
and charge them more for their hair removal as well. Like the cost for men to shave is a lot less for the cost of a woman to shave. So it's just, the double standards are just horrendous. But you've also now got to be considerate of people that are transgender, because you know, they're not necessarily they might not want to shave, or they may want to remove their hair. And you know, you should be able to wear makeup and also have a beard if you want to.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like we're in a movement at the moment which we need to just be more accepting and just allow people to show up however they feel comfortable, and stop having so many judgments about other people's bodies. It's so alien to me, because I've always been on the receiving end of having people's judgments thrown at me.
The unsolicited advice all the time, and the labeling, and like you said, it's that being put in a category that you didn't ask to be put in. You just wanted to show up as yourself, and it doesn't even just limit itself to your skin, to your hair, to your body. It's to your personality. You're being too loud, too opinionated, too bold, too tomboy, too girly. It's never ending.
No, you'll always be too something, and that's the trouble, is that it is never ending. So no matter how you choose to show up, someone is going to have something to say about it. Even if you are the expected perfectionism, someone will still have something to say. They'll say, oh, well, you're too plastic, or you're too this, or there's always going to be like someone then being jealous about the way you look. So it's much better to show up as you are and face the judgments that are bound to come, but it being based on you being true to who you are, and you will live a much happier life for that. Because I tell you, it's so exhausting trying to be someone you're not every single day, because I worked in the beauty industry, and I felt like, well, makeup was my uniform. So it's written into all of my contracts as a beautician, was that I had to wear X amount of makeup to work every single day. So I didn't feel like I could go barefaced or show my acne. And I certainly didn't want to be seen as unprofessional either. If I couldn't sort my own skin out, like, would people think I was very good at my job? Or would they, a lot of the time, people associate spots with being young, so then did people think I was immature and not very experienced? So there's just so many issues, like you say, labels on things or stigmas attached to certain things. So I guess I just find myself in a position of just being a cheerleader for the downtrodden, really, and just feels like they can't be themselves, because I know how that feels in my very small way, because there's other people that are going through such huge transitions in life, and they really are like in a minority, actually. And I'm probably, I'm not. I've got a skin condition, or I had a skin condition that a lot of other people had. But it's crazy that so many people have acne, yet there is still so much shame around it.
Yeah.
And that's largely due to any skincare product that you buy that is for someone with spotty skin doesn't have a spotty person in the advertisement. So
which again is absolute madness to me. It just doesn't
make sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
No. So I think a lot needs to change, and hopefully we're getting there slowly anyway.
Yes, slowly but surely, with people like you, thankfully, who are sharing these kind of messages that need to be heard and need to be seen, and even if it is just a small corner of the world, it's a small corner of the world that you're making a difference in, which I think is so important.
Thank you.
I'm the opposite in the sense that in my quest to become aware and accepting, and find that when you go into this self-love, self-discovery, you sometimes end up in this pit where you overanalyze everything to the point where now I'm going through this phase where I'm like, okay, so am I doing this for me, or am I doing this because the world makes me think I need to do it? So it's like, am I wearing makeup today because I want to, or because the world's told me I have to be more prettier and to be more accepted? And then that extends into everything. So then you're like, am I actually girly, or have I just convinced myself I'm girly? And then you're like, did I want to be blonde, or did I want to just shave my head? And then I just end up in this pit of I don't even know anymore.
No, it's very hard to know what's authentic you and what is, years of suppression or whatever. For a woman specifically as well, especially with the makeup thing, and it's just incredible. Like when I think about how much makeup I used to wear, and guys used to say to me, "You wear too much makeup," and then it's like I take my makeup off. It's like, "You look tired. Are you sick?" It's like you cannot win. So
no,
it's just exhausting.
Hats off to us.
Yeah,
trying. We're trying our best.
We are superhuman, I tell you.
Honestly, for anyone that's wanting to begin this kind of, I don't want to say self-love, I want to say self-discovery, because I think self-love changes all the time. The initial self-love I needed when I was like 14, 15 was very different to the self-love that I need to show myself now. Like the self-love I needed then was to know that it was okay to be who I was and to fail and to get things wrong. But the self-love I needed now was to, bitch, take a day off. Like, sleep, please. Coffee is not a meal. Actually take some time on your own. You're allowed to do that. You don't have to be busy. Like, that's the love I need now. When I say self-discovery, I guess I think it is really hard every generation has its challenges, but I think with the up and coming generation where social media is so prevalent, there's, like you said, this rise in cosmetic surgery. What would be your advice for if there was a you now in this world that we're in growing up? What would be your advice to start that self-discovery, or what did you wish you knew?
I wish I surrounded myself more with people who fueled me in the sense of encouraged me to explore and love as well, actually, because I didn't come from a place like that. I came from a very judgmental upbringing where it was very much how you looked was very important. And there was a lot of kind of opinions being thrown around everywhere as well, which made me very insecure. So I would definitely just, I guess the short version of that is just to be you unapologetically, because that's kind of like probably where I found myself all the time, was just apologizing for showing up how I was, and always feeling like if I didn't have makeup on, I had to apologize for it and say, oh, sorry for the way I look. I just haven't managed to do this yet, or I'm in the middle of that yet, so I don't look how I would normally want to present myself to you.
It's like you're having to declare it, because if you declare it first, then they can't make an opinion that will then hurt you or make you feel insecure about it.
And I can't really explain enough how much joining the acne community changed my experience, like you say, self-discovery. I didn't know that the hashtag acne existed up until like 4 years ago. Like, that's when I first discovered it. And had I found that sooner, I would have not felt so alone for so many years. And feeling alone in something really, I think, prolongs your struggle.
Yeah, I agree.
So
you remove yourself from the help because you're like, oh, it's just me, everyone's looking at me, I'm the problem. You kind of internalize it as it's like a solo battle, and actually, like you said, acne is a really common condition that affects so many people in so many different ways. And actually it means that there's a huge community of like-minded people that are like, I've got you, boo.
Yeah, and we could all joke about it, and we could, laugh about the fact that Karen at the checkout keeps recommending us skincare products in aisle 5, and we're like, we've already got 1 million face washes. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks for your unsolicited advice, Karen. But
yeah, we can joke about it in amongst ourselves. But I think the biggest game changer for me was looking at other people and acne not being the first thing I recognised about them. So when that happened, that shift in my head, I was like, okay, so I just saw that person and didn't notice they had acne. I actually consider that that person to be very beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else can look at me and think I am beautiful and not see my acne the way I think it like dominates all people see. And actually I've just seen someone and I didn't even think about it. So
yeah,
surrounding myself with your people.
Yeah, and people that just enable you to be yourself and don't make you feel like you have to be something else.
Yeah, it was the closest thing to home I think I'd ever felt when I found that community. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And I feel exactly the same way about not necessarily body positive, but body liberation or body acceptance, just being exposed to other bodies, I think. And especially at the time, like when I was going through recovery, I didn't know anyone that had an eating disorder. So to have people online that were also
it's not spoken about, is it? It's so like all these things are so taboo, and it's very much like a suffer in silence kind of situation. If you can't have those conversations like face to face, what do you do?
Where do you go? You've got no one to bounce off. And I think it's incredible nowadays. Like that's the one thing I think this upcoming generation has, is this abundance. Yes, it can be a very toxic place if not used correctly. But if you find those little pockets of online, like my social media feed is so well curated, I have to say, that it brings me so much joy because it's full of like badass women that just live their best lives and love themselves, really cute animals, memes, and then normally lists of like Instagrammable places to go in London.
I love that.
And that's my search page.
I definitely say, you need to unfollow anything that doesn't make you feel inspired, happy, thankful, or connected, because my social media feed did not used to look like that at all. And like when we were talking earlier about self-love and, it being constant work, part of that work is to make it less work, is to stop being exposed to so much stuff that drags you down. And for me, following people that I compared myself to, you can unfollow someone that you really love, because if if that person is someone that you compare yourself to all the time, you might need just a little break from them and not see everything that they're posting all day every day, because until you've worked on yourself where they're not having that effect, not intentionally, but then it's okay. It's all right to like just, and the great thing about Instagram, especially now, is I think you can mute people.
Yeah, you can mute people. I hope they don't listen to this podcast.
No, well,
there's a few people I know and I do genuinely adore, but I have to mute them because the stuff they share on stories and stuff, I'm like, I just don't need to see that.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely fine, because then you're still, friends, you're still following. But the other thing is the aspect of social media I struggle with is people that I know, they, especially people closer to me, they won't ask me about myself or my day because they've seen 1%
because
of my
you're so
day
active on social media.
So I actually have less physical human interaction now, and not by my choice, by everyone else interacting with me without me realizing, because they're participating in my life, they're showing up to my life, but I don't know they're there. Or I've got friends that still live in the Caribbean and they're like, oh, we see you every day, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't see or speak to you. So like I'm still feeling
you don't actually know how I am. There's that check in on your strong friends, and I think it's that I'm not an influencer, but I'm very active on socials. It's my muggle job. So by nature, I'm just always on the app. And it isn't until I go off social media that people start to panic and check in. And like I had a week off just because I was so busy. And I was like, do you know what? Social media is not, if I disappear for a week, the world isn't going to end. So I just wasn't online and I was just too busy doing other things. The amount of people that were all of a sudden interested and if I was okay, why don't you check on me normally?
Yeah, social media is 1% of someone's life. Like, if you've got friends that are posting things that you don't want to see, like, there's also the very real aspect of people only post the good stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, social media has to be an element of escapism, which is why we tend to just post the good stuff, because
absolutely,
we want to really, it's just a highlight reel, isn't it, of our whole life. And then
it's like your online photo album of all the best bits.
Yeah, no one wants to really, unfortunately, no one really wants to see the bad bits, because people don't intentionally go on there to feel like wallow, you know. They don't want to be like, they can watch the news.
Yes, true. Blimey.
So people go onto social media for light relief, but if you are finding that you're closing the app and you're feeling worse than when you opened it, it's probably because of the content that you're consuming while you're on the app. So like you say, Chelsea, if you've managed to get to a point where you've got this amazing feed, that's because you've put in the work of thinking, okay, so this has just popped up, how does it make me feel? And then instantly you can make a decision there. If you're going to double tap it, then Instagram's going to keep coming up. Yeah,
and that's
you're going to keep
it's
saying,
like the algorithm works with what you support. So if you keep liking pictures of bikini models that make you feel really insecure, that's what's going to keep cropping up. But or if you keep liking pictures of really cute dogs, what's going to come up? Pictures of really cute dogs. And who's winning?
The dogs. And
I
always say, like,
correct.
I always say, like, as well, we have so much more power than we realize in so many different ways, and especially with social media. Of course, that algorithm's a bit nuts sometimes, but on the whole, if you were to, for example, we're all pretty cross this year because Love Island isn't as diverse as we were all hoping it would be after a really body positive year. The viewer actually holds all the cards. You could all together
just not watch it.
Advertisers would be furious, and there would be a very quick change to make sure that ratings stayed good and what people actually wanted to watch. So unfortunately, the collective we are to blame for things like that, because if you're watching it, you're supporting and promoting it. And it's the same with real skin in terms of advertisements or any body positive kind of content that you want to see, in terms of if you want to see clothes on diverse people, diverse bodies, that's who you need to show up for. That's who you need to be double tapping for. For example, if I did a paid campaign with a skincare brand and I was showing my real skin unedited, that's who you need to show up for. I know people don't like
100%. It infiltrates a lot recently into like my work as a performer, because I've noticed how much I don't want to have to tolerate that anymore. And I was really fortunate. I did an ad campaign with a sportswear brand the other day. I'm not allowed to say, unfortunately, as much as I want to be like, I'm so excited. And it was one of the most warm, supportive, diverse in every sense. Gender, weight, race, everything was diverse. And not one of us were made to feel like we were a less worthy athlete or model. Everyone was supported and made to feel like they deserved to be there. And like we had like a movement choreographer who would like tell us how to move our bodies, and even the way like she would describe our bodies was in such a positive way, and I'd never been exposed to that before. So I ended up having this whole day where I was wearing these leggings and the band kept rolling down, as it does because I have body fat, so it rolls when I move. And she was like, I kept getting a wedgie in the shorts, and she was like, oh, it's because your peachy butt's eating it all up. Like, and I was just like, yes, like I want to be surrounded by this, not the like that. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I feel like this
so
just
special. And also like how much more amazing is that than just being like diverse for the sake of being diverse? I think
exactly
that's the one like danger zone we're in at the moment with all of these incredible movements, is that we don't want it just to be a movement, or we don't just want it to be a trend of the moment. We actually
or a tick list.
We want this to be longevity. Like I want to see real skin forever. I don't just want a skincare company to do, oh hey, let's do a real skincare campaign, a real skin campaign where we show like real relatable skin instead of our usual airbrush skin for this particular campaign. No, let's do that forever, and
let's make the change and make it be a permanent fixture.
Yeah, but also like don't even mention it. Like let's see an advert for a pair of headphones, for example. I say that because I'm looking at you with a pair of headphones.
I look like a Cyberman.
Let's see like an advert for a pair of headphones and the person's got real skin that hasn't been retouched. Like it doesn't need to be like with my facial hair post, which is what just tells me why it's so needed. The fact that it sparks such controversy and such disgusted views is just proves to me how needed it is, because I shouldn't have to highlight my facial hair for people to realize that it's human and it exists. Like a campaign about real skin, we shouldn't have to have a campaign about this is what real skin looks like.
Yeah, there shouldn't be like a big arrow in neon lights and hashtags and pointers being like, by the way, this is what a face actually looks like.
No filter needed or whatever else. Or if it's body positive, it's like, you know, body positive movement or whatever else. It just shouldn't need to be mentioned, because we should all already be accepted, but we're not, so that is why we're all here. So that is my only worry, is that things are like especially on social media where it's such a trend orientated platform.
It becomes a tick list rather than, oh, actually I care about this and I want it to just be something that's there because it needs to be there. But a more positive notes to almost come to a conclusion of this episode, which makes me so sad, because I just want to have a brew with you and chat for ages. I feel like we'd be such good friends.
We would, Chelsea. I could tell we'd have a lot to say.
We do. I talk for England. It's the Midlander in me. It's a toxic trait. But this season, I want to bring the real life into the pod, and I feel like I dissect people so much on this podcast, and we go into all the deep meaningful stuff. But actually, I just want to leave our listeners with some real life goodness. So, what was a weekly highlight or a giggle or just something that made you laugh or just made you feel really good?
Okay, hang on, Chelsea. Let me get into the zone and think about something that made me feel good. Obviously doing this with you, but that doesn't count.
That's lovely. I love that.
We can't say that. That's too cringe. We've had too much of that.
Cringe.
I enjoyed too much of that in the intro. This got me quite emotional, so I know it's not really the pick-me-up that you were looking for, but
oh no, don't worry.
Someone texted me, like direct messaged me on Instagram, and it was the day of their wedding, and she just texted me and she just said, I'm just about to walk down the aisle, Joanna, and I just wanted to send you this picture of me in my dress. Look at me smiling with my visible acne texture, my skin texture, and I'm still really happy and it's not ruining my day. And she's just like, I have you to thank for that. I'm so happy. And I was just like, this
oh
is
my god,
literally, this is like the highlight of my life, that someone has that special day that is so, you know, you worry about it so much. If you have a skin condition like acne, you just worry about these moments where, as a bride, again, the pressure to look
my gosh, that's like, you could do a whole episode on that.
Just the best version of yourself on that one day. It's got to be the day that you look the best. And there's so much fear for people that have insecurities about the way that they look. So to get that message, honestly, I just feel like mission accomplished.
Oh my god, you must have felt like such a badass to know that you've had like,
oh my god,
just to impact one person's life like that
in that way,
such a profound way.
Gosh, and for her to have thought about sending me a message like literally seconds away from walking down the aisle, like I could have got it a bit like and not felt quite so overwhelmed if she'd sent it to me like 2 weeks later, but she was literally just about to walk down the aisle, so I was just like,
wow. I hope you screenshot it and saved it.
I did. So I posted it to my story.
This isn't worth it. Read that message, girl.
Yeah, I will. I will read that one forever. It was so special.
Oh wow, that's a great. Oh, I'm so glad I asked this question now, because that gave me goose pimples. Like, I've got little goosebumps all over my arms. I'm such an empath. I get so invested. That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, it really was.
Wow. And that leads really nicely into my final question for your marvelous self, which is the best piece of advice you've ever been given.
Okay, so this is a bit of a name drop, okay?
Oh, go on.
And they don't get really much bigger name drops than this, so I'm really sorry for that. I don't mean it to come across like this.
Oh no, it won't at all. We love a name drop.
Okay, so Barack Obama.
Right, stop. I'm going to need so much context for this.
No, I think we'll have to leave it for episode 2. Let's
just crawl.
So Barack Obama, he said to me, I was kindly invited to a party that he and Michelle were hosting. I was part of the staff that had been looking after them on one of their little getaways, and they hosted this party, and we were all dancing away. And of course, Michelle and Barack are incredible dancers, and they're you could just stand on the sides just watching them all night. But he came over to me. I'd been dancing with my husband Chris, and he just said, the secret to dancing is just to dance like nobody's watching. I was like, yeah, that is exactly right, because Chris is quite stiff, and like he cares about people and what they think of him, so he doesn't like dancing, whereas I was a bit more fluid, and because his original statement was like, what is wrong with you British people? You just can't dance, can you? I was like,
because we're so like
rigid
about it, like all robots.
Just like bopping away. And he goes, look, with dancing, you just got to feel it, and you just got to do it like nobody's watching. And it's so right, and it does link back to insecurities, because you're so worried about what everyone's thinking about you all the time, but I promise you, no one is watching. No one is that interested. They're all far too busy worrying about their own insecurities to be thinking about you. So it's always stuck with me, and I've kind of used it.
It's like a blanket advice that you can kind of use to infiltrate all areas of your life.
Absolutely, yeah. It's something that I can just
Don't worry, we've been on this chat for a while, don't worry.
Yeah, I think your bit ended it nicely. So yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I get so delirious. Like I've not had a cup of tea in a while, and so I'm like,
my water ran out half an hour ago, so I just keep like looking.
You're just picking it up, like this will refresh the moment. And I have one final thing. It's not a question. It's more of a like, here is your space to self-plug. Where can people find you? What is coming up? Do you have any like big projects or plans of action? Yeah, where can people find you and bask in your fabulous message and human being that you put out there?
Well, if you need some personal cheerleading, then come over to my Instagram page, which is mainly where it's at the moment, which is Joanna J. Kenny. And then I've just started up my TikTok, so I'm just gradually going there. Thought I'd, get a bit more
Gen Z.
I'm just so old.
Don't. I feel it. I love TikTok, but it's such a like bizarre world to be in.
it's amazing, but I'm definitely, I'm going to try my best to represent my age group of 30 plus. And then I've also got, like you said earlier, I've got my podcast, which is on Spotify, which is Normalize This. I've also got a playlist as well, so I thought alongside the podcast I would do like motivational music. So it's called Empower Mode. So if you're ever feeling like you just need a bit of a mood booster, or you need like your confidence supercharged, then you can just pop on that playlist. You can message me as well if there's a song that you think would go really well on there, and then I'll add it on. And that's now my go-to playlist. So whenever I just want to like enter like feeling badass.
Yes.
I'm just putting that on. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for listening as well.
I know everyone's gonna love it, and I can't wait. I love this moment of like, I get to hear how awesome this is before the rest of you do.